Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the GCS Connect Leaders Series. I'm really excited today. We've got Ewen Mcpherson, who's one of the senior directors here at one of our clients, Discover Financial Services. GCS, as you all know, is a recruitment business industry leader. We're based in Europe and the US. GCS Connect is our way of building a community. We like to say we connect expert talent, innovative companies such as Discover. And this is our way of building that community online. Leaders Series is where we take time to speak to leaders within our network, really about what's going on in technology, business, and what their thoughts are for the future. I have personally worked with Ewen for many years, and we've shared some really good times together, many glasses of wine, many drinks. So it's really great to have him on board. He will jokingly say it's taken me a long while to get him on the Leaders Series podcast. He's a very busy man, so it's very good to have him on board. Ewan's got 30 years experience, 20 years with Diners Club and Discover, both as a contractor and as a permanent employee, and has moved up the ranks and now has a global role within Discover. So we'll find out more about that. But yeah, welcome Ewen. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. It's Friday, so it's always a nice feeling to get to this point of the week. So
That's
good.
Right. Yes, it is. It's been a very busy week. If you're listening now, it's like March, and I think the world seems to be getting quite excited that maybe this lockdown might be over. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Ewen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm past trying to predict that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly closer than it was this time last year. But who knows? Right?
Yeah, we're nearly a year in now, aren't we? So we've got so used to it that it's time to come. But a lot of our conversations on the Leaders Series have been about the adaptation to this new environment, which I think Discover particularly has done very well. But now it'll obviously be the adaptation to returning to normal, and which companies will return to completely normal. I think is going to be a really interesting question.
Yeah.
So I've introduced yourself, Ewen. You just want to quickly take us through kind of what your role is, what you do, and what you're really kind of particularly interested in within Discover.
Yeah, so I'm, as you mentioned, I'm one of the directors at Discover, responsible for, on the face of it, application development, but quite specifically, I work for a part of the organisation known as Payment Services. So we run the network of Discover that supports the Discover card business, and that Payment Services is really all about how moving transactions, card transactions around the world as people pay for goods and services and all of that kind of good stuff. So a lot of technology behind the scenes every time you flash your card at a point of sale or in an ATM. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind that, and that's what I support and my team support for the network.
And since we've been working with you, I'm always fascinated is we've worked with Discover GCS for quite some time, and you guys always feel like you're kind of always really working at the edge of the kind of real cutting edge of payment technology. When we first started, it was kind of mobile and Apple Pay and that sort of thing. It's always been quite exciting stuff, hasn't it?
Definitely. And I know, that, to be fair though, I think that's driven a lot by the market. So the last, I mean, I've been working in payments for a long time, so maybe, like you say, more than 20 years. And I would say certainly in the last 5 or 10 years, I would say I've never seen so much going on, and that's probably what you're talking about, because there's so much innovation that's driven by technology, but also the business opportunities that come up in the way of payments, that's what's driving it. So we have always been feeling like we're at the cutting edge in that time that we've all been working together, because we have been. There's been a lot going on in payments, whether that's contactless stuff, whether that is wallets, as you mentioned, that kind of new ways of paying for goods and services that people expect these days, and that's kind of what we do. So there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and I think and also could you just want to quickly take people through what Discover is, because obviously we're both sitting in the UK at the moment. I know Discover isn't such a famous brand, as it were, but do you want to take us through what Discover is?
Yeah, absolutely. And no, it's not so well known in the UK and Europe in general, I guess, but in reality, it's the third largest credit card network in the world. So it's got a lot of global reach. It's predominantly a card issuer in the US. So when you think about some of our competitors, the obvious ones, which I'm not going to name, Discover is Discover is a major player in the card industry, and in the US, significant player. And so, you know, that's really our bread and butter. But it's a digital bank, for example. It's an online digital bank in the US. Serious player there as well. It's got a whole bunch of other financial services behind it. So Discover Financial Services encompasses a whole range of the usual kind of banking products and services. But the predominant the predominant service is the card, Discover card.
Yeah, exactly. And Diners Club obviously is one of the brands that might be more kind of well known.
Right, that's true. Yeah, Diners Club is helps Discover reach across the globe because it's got a global network, and they were acquired by Discover, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. So Diners Club, a very old traditional charge card, supports that part of the network as well. Absolutely.
Sure. And it must be quite interesting because for me, I think one of the things I find fascinating is, like you said, it's a big brand, it's a big corporate, but because it has a kind of real control over its own network. I mean, you hear quite a lot about these disruptors like Revolut and Monzo Bank and Atom Bank, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
But Discover does all that stuff, doesn't it? It just does it from a kind of position of size.
It does. It does. But we are, to be fair, also driving through all those innovations that are coming through. So we are a traditional player in lots of ways. We provide the rails for a credit card business. So that requires a lot of movement of a lot of numbers, a lot of money, and we are one of the big players in that space. The fintechs that you just described have been arriving, I know, everyone's doorsteps over the last 5 or 10 years, and helping to drive some of that innovation that we are part of as well. And absolutely, we are. If you look at things like secure remote commerce, which is the latest thing, I think, that this year you would say, which is trying to drive a new experience for people online, similar to the contactless when you go into a shop. Secure remote commerce is providing that similar user experience. Now, we're right at the forefront of stuff like that. So even though we've got a traditional kind of credit card rails, as it were, we're definitely chipping away at that innovation space as well.
Now you've moved, we've both been with our businesses for kind of similar amount of time, and you've moved through the ranks. When you think about kind of business challenges you've had, what have been the kind of the key ones that you've had as you've moved forward to what is a kind of an overall global role? What would you say the key business challenges you have to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I do go back a long way. So I don't even, my memory can go back that far, but I will just pick on the stuff I think more recently. Certainly when digital wallets kicked off maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be there at the beginning of that. I think that was a challenge because up until that point, working with big tech was not something we had necessarily done at pace. And so we were being demanded to kind of pull capability together really quickly. Relatively new capability for us, very new capability, and being part of that was great. But I think the biggest one for me is over the last 5 or 6 years in Discover, we have been trying to transform our entire network, and I've been leading that from a technology perspective. And that transformation projects, as everyone will tell you, are not easy. You're talking hundreds of people, new technologies everywhere, changes across the board. I think the most difficult thing, though, the most challenging part of that is not really the technology or the tools and all that kind of stuff. It's really trying to change the mindset and the culture that goes with it, because what worked for people 30 years ago, maybe that they're used to operating in a certain way, doesn't necessarily work in today's market. So trying to transform the way people work is really, really tough, and that's what I've been part of over the last 5 years or so.
It's that role that sometimes calling in technology evangelism, isn't it? Showing the way forward, even when people don't necessarily agree or believe.
There's always a percentage of people that don't buy into it, and that can go various ways. But hopefully, through the way that we lead people and the way that we encourage people, everyone comes along for the ride if they want to. So it's difficult though for everyone, and no one, bizarrely, in technology, because technology, as far as I've always been concerned, is always been about change. But people don't always like change, even in technology, and it's our job to kind of to make it happen and to make people comfortable with the whole transformation.
And obviously that's kind of come from running very large global teams with different pockets of people in different places. What would you say the kind of the benefits of that, but also the challenges of that? So I mean, you don't have just a team of 30 people. I mean, how many people do you work for you, Ewen?
Work for me directly, very few, because obviously we got a big organization, lots of people managing all of that, which we got a great team of people. In our payments organization, under my boss, there's probably about 900 people. In the programs that I look after, you're talking several hundred, so quite a lot that goes along with that. But you're right, we have them scattered all over the world, which might sound a bit wrong, actually. We have people we got people in India, we got people in Eastern Europe, UK, all over America, and actually that's the advantage I think we get from that, is probably what is something that people call follow the sun model, which basically maximizes your availability, if you like, across your whole team as you follow the time zones that are around. So that's a great aspect of it. One of the disadvantages of that is, you got to be really careful of, is obviously you may want to be speaking to somebody who's tucked up in bed at the other side of the world. So what we've learned, I think, over the years is to make sure that the people who are in the same teams are actually co-located, at least in the same time zone, and then they can work together as teams across time zones, but actually having people co-located in the same places is always a good thing, I think.
And one of the things you guys have done quite a lot, which is maybe different to other technology companies, not entirely, is obviously built up a really big presence in the UK, haven't you? It's something you've done strategically.
Yes.
Why? I'm just quite interested, because it's not something that we see from all big tech companies.
No, I mean, developers. Yeah, that's true. I think that I don't want to call it an accident, because it certainly wasn't. But it does get a little bit to how the culture of Discover works. So Discover acquired Diners Club, and there was a small presence in the UK for technology there, less than 100 people. And Discover's, when that kind of thing happens, when a company comes along and acquires another company, you kind of expect bad things might happen if you're on the receiving end of that. And actually, Discover is not like that at all. It's a really open-minded company, open door kind of company, and they looked at what was going on there, and I think they recognised the goodness that was there, the talent that was there and available in the UK, and they allowed that to expand and grow and be part of all the good things that were going on in our organisation, and to the point we're now 450 people, I think, in the UK. And that's, like I say, as a test for me, the question is why? Well, because Discover is just like that. They recognise there's good talent in the UK, and they recognise there's something to be gained by having us here. So it's a great testament to Discover that we're doing that.
It's been a really successful one. And you finally managed to move out the Farnborough shopping centre as well into a office.
We did. We're in a very nice office.
Been there for about a month, weren't you? And then lockdown happened.
That's true. That's true. It's a really nice office we got down there now, actually. So we're very happy with that.
Yeah. And I don't know how much you talk to other kind of business leaders, but what advice, for people kind of developing software at the moment, or thinking about kind of expanding their teams, what advice would you give to other kind of technology leaders in terms of doing that? Because you obviously seen huge growth over a period of time. You've dealt with different aspects of that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of general advice about in terms of software engineering and delivery, the obvious thing is invest in that talent.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody who's in my kind of position would say anything different. You have to recognize that you're only as good as the people that work here, and if you invest in people, in the right people, training people, looking
yeah,
after people's careers, that's the most important thing you can possibly do to be successful. I mean, I
yeah,
think that's what we try and do for sure, and you guys have helped us with that along the way, so it's
yeah.
very important.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're trying to kind of build that legacy and that team and that talent, you need to, obviously you're adding to it, but you need to make sure that your core team is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. But people like to solve problems. People like being involved in good work, and it's our job to kind of make sure that they're happy, satisfied with the stuff they're doing, their careers are growing, their skills are developing, and that's kind of the most important thing of all.
Yeah, and I think that's what gives that really good culture, isn't it? That
Absolutely.
both of us have been with our businesses for a long period of time, but
Yeah.
before we started this conversation, we were both saying, well, it's been a busy week, right? So we've still,
Yeah.
we're still doing it 20 odd years in, and we've still
That's
been
very
given
true.
problems to solve. So
Well, that's true. I mean, people busy is good. Busy is good because it keeps us all interested.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. And
Mhm.
I know that obviously Discover has really embraced is the wrong word, but obviously changed a lot of the kind of working culture in terms of
Mhm.
remote working and
Sure.
allowing people to work in different ways. What positives do you see coming out of that situation? Do you think that it will go back to how it was, or do you think there's been a real kind of sea change?
Um, Positives is a bit of an odd word to use in this context.
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
know if
Yeah.
any of us can really look for positives out of what's happened.
Mm.
I definitely think, though, um, we've been able to demonstrate that we can all flex and work
Yeah,
remotely, and I think we can see that. I felt a much better appreciation for the team culture that we had. I mean, we moving to remote overnight, pretty much, which is what we did and a lot of other companies did, is a great testament to the infrastructure teams that we've got in Discover. They managed to make it really seamless for us.
yeah,
Once we were there, and the way that we've been working, you would not really have noticed the difference. And the team culture we've got is fantastic. The adaptability of the group and the resilience of the group, I think, has really shone through. But whether that is a long-term thing, if that's the question, I'm not sure. We certainly will see more flexible working. I think every
sure.
company has recognised that. In terms of whether it'll make a difference to how people work permanently, that remains to be seen. I don't know that any of us can predict that really, one way or the
No,
other.
I think it's difficult to do. And in our position as a recruiter, we're seeing lots of different companies talking in different ways. Some companies like,
Sure.
no, from X date we're back in the office and we're excited by it, And it's
Yeah.
interesting, different companies selling in a different way. This
Right.
you want to be back in the office with us, or you don't want to be back in the office with us.
Yeah.
And I
There's
think
something
that
to be said for everything that we all recognise. Sometimes it's nice to be face to face, and I don't think we're ever going to lose that. No, we all recognise that.
yeah,
The question is, will it lead to a lot more people being permanently remote? I don't know about that. I really don't. We're very flexible. I definitely, Discover's always been flexible, but this is another example of that, I think.
yeah, exactly. And how would you, describe the kind of we talked about the problem solving. How would you describe the Discover working environment?
You mean the culture just in general?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for quite a few financial organisations over the years, and I definitely feel Discover's pretty unique for a financial institution. The openness and the flexibility we talked about already. As I mentioned about how the UK has grown, that's a really great example of how Discover is
yeah,
open-minded. But in general, Discover has a set of values like a lot all corporations have their values, right, that they like to talk about. But Discover's the only one I've genuinely even worked for where they're taken extremely seriously from the top to bottom. The
Yeah.
culture, that is the strength of the culture, that it is right from the top, right to the bottom. Those values are kind of upheld. It's all about collaboration, and doing the right thing. Very ethical in their outlook, and in general very extremely employee friendly. I would say that is one of the overriding things. They're a very customer focused. One of the differentiators for Discover is being customer focused and being the top in the industry at being customer focused. But they recognize, I think, you can look at it empirically if you want, but making employees happy, keeping teams happy, like I said, taking care of the talent, as I mentioned earlier, that's what ultimately leads to happy customers. And Discover is great at that. So being customer centric really means being employee centric as well.
Yeah, I think that sometimes you have to strike that right balance, don't you, between the two different sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously, as we move forward now, I'm just kind of interested to kind of move on to the technology side. So from your side, we've talked already about the huge changes that have happened in the last 5 years. I mean, you mentioned there the kind of secure remote commerce, but how do you see the kind of the world of financial payments developing in the next few years? Or what's the next big thing?
Wow. Okay. That's a big question as well. I
Not
mean,
to
like
give away any of your secrets yet. So.
I can't possibly, but it is definitely, like I said before, it is definitely a world of incredible exponential kind of change and innovation. So trying to predict what the next big thing is difficult, because the one I mentioned there, secure remote commerce, that is definitely the hot off the press item that's going on right now in the industry. But I think people just take it for granted when things happen. But if you look back over the last 5 years, people paying for things on their watches, on their phones, making it really easy to click and pay on the internet. Those are the things that have been going on that are just going to carry on. I don't think I can really predict what's going to happen in the next, certainly not in the next 12 months or few years, but you're just going to see more and more of that. It's just people are looking for a more convenient way to pay for their goods and services, and that is getting challenged every single day. So where it's going, I don't know. The digital innovation is what it's all about, though. Digitizing all of that capability that you currently have through. If you think about it, you've gone from checkbooks to cards, and now to contactless, and to paying through your watch, phone, or whatever it is. And that trend is just going to carry on. Whether you're going to be paying for things, your fridge will be enabled to pay for things. Your car will be enabled to pay for things.
That's just interesting, isn't it?
So the Internet of Things, all of that stuff is where payments is going, and so it covers an awful lot of ground. And exactly where it's going to go next, I don't know.
There's that new Amazon shop, isn't there, that you go into, and it's got you just walk
and
out.
I've been in those in Chicago. So Discover's hometown is Chicago, and they have them in the station. They've had them in the station in Chicago for a while. You just walk in, you walk out with stuff. It's quite quite unnerving, actually.
Or is the Amazon too clever to let you get away for free?
Well, you would like to think so, yeah.
I mean, just that's quite interesting, really, because obviously, in essence, Discover is a network, right? It's a network of financial transactions. It's not actually a card, is it?
No, it is a card. It is. That's
it is a card, but the actual the thing that. Do you think there will come a time when, in the same way as we just talked about checkbooks, that people won't use their cards? It will all be through a device. Do you think that's where it's going? And
so we all like to think that would be the case. And ultimately it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, but then on the other hand, I mean, I don't know about you, but I stopped using checks a long time ago. But in America, it's still very common.
It's true,
and it changes wherever you are. So contactless is now. So through the pandemic, ironically, contactless is starting to become a bit bigger in the States. It's been around in Europe for 10 years or so, but but checks still do exist. Cards will still exist. These things will coexist for quite a long time before they drop off a cliff. And
I guess that's something for you to kind of deal with, because that's kind of the legacy way the legacy comes in. So you've got to kind of try and keep cash or checks somehow in the system, right?
So yeah, so the company, the fintechs that you mentioned, where they're just operating in the new space, that's relatively easy. So for a company like Discover, we have to keep our eyes on all of it. So we're trying to cover all these different payment methods, which we have to because we support a much broader base. And so, you know, there may come a time when those sort of things disappear, but right now we're here to support all of it. So yeah.
And obviously Discover is a big player in the hiring side, and you know, as we said, we've worked successfully over many years with Discover.
Yeah.
How are you seeing the change in technology talent? We obviously have our own opinion, but as you're hiring, you're interviewing people. Have you seen a change in the last 6 to 12 months, or is it still the tough market it's always been?
I don't, you know, probably better than I do. It comes in waves, right? And I think the last 6 to 12 months are a really difficult time to judge, even though Discover's been hiring all that time, because we're still expanding, we're still growing. It's really difficult to understand what the trends are. My understanding is, or my feeling is probably, is a lot of people are reluctant to move, or have been reluctant to move in that period, and quite understandably, right? That uncertainty in the market, uncertainty in society. So people have been probably reluctant to move. I'm hoping that will change a bit, because you know, we're looking for people, so it's important to have people who are looking. So you know, the trends in technologies, though, they come and go, and it changes all the time. So I'm just personally interested in good engineering talent, regardless, because for me, good engineering talent can move from technology to technology, and you know, that is something that we you know, training, that's part of the deal when it comes to Discover. So you know, as long as you're someone who's good, able to learn, you know, that, and willing to learn, that's kind of what we're interested in.
Yeah, and from your side, you know, the types of people that you look for. I mean, you've mentioned before problem solvers, passionate, you know, that sort of thing. Is there a kind of a key type of kind of personality that you really look for, that you think fits well within Discover?
I think if anyone who's put teams together suggests that there's only certain types of people that you want, then you're probably making a mistake. You need a diverse set of people, whether that's cultures, genders, ethnicity, whatever. But you also need a diversity of personality. So a good team is a team that is made up of all sorts of different personalities and types. And I don't think that you could say there's one type of person. All we're looking for is people who are, like you say, passionate, willing to learn, willing to take responsibility for what they're doing, and are, you know, and want to have fun doing it. So you know, we need people who are open and collaborative at the end of the day, like Discover is as a culture.
Brilliant. Yeah, and the opportunities are great, obviously working for that big kind of global company, and working with some of the most cutting edge technologies is really, really exciting. So Ewan, it's been great to speak to you today. Thank you very much for your time. I know how busy a man you are. I'm very pleased to have got you on the Leaders Series. But I do hope you have a great few months as you start kind of hiring again, and here's to hopefully meeting up at some point in the future for a beer or something.
Face to face would be good one day, wouldn't it? It'd be nice.
I always promise you, Ewan's a big Brighton fan, so I always promise him again to go and see Brighton live.
One of these days, one of these days. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ewan. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Cheers.